You are watching the World 24/7 on the NDTV network. I'm Parmeshwar Bawa. Let's begin with a quick look at the headlines we're tracking at the moment. A 4-day election has shaken the foundations of the European Union, with the far right rocking ruling parties in France and Germany, the bloc's traditional driving forces. British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak is promising to cut immigration levels if his Conservative Party wins next month's election, making the issue one of the major battlegrounds of the upcoming vote. We take a look at the election promises of different political parties in the United Kingdom. US Secretary of State Antony Blinken arrived in West Asia, hoping to deliver the ceasefire that Joe Biden proposed last month in an all-out push by Washington to secure an end to the Gaza war. In an exclusive interview with NDTV, Bhutanese Prime Minister Dashot Tshering Tobgay speaks on the economy, the environment and strategic alignment. He also speaks of how Narendra Modi is his guru, his mentor and his big brother. Apple is integrating ChatGPT into iPhones, its first foray into the AI arms race. The company has announced a long-anticipated partnership with OpenAI that will see its virtual assistant Siri using GPT-4. Well, a big focus. Prime Minister Narendra Modi's 3.0 government saw several ministers retain their top cabinet positions, while non-central posts went to his coalition partners. Dr. Jaishankar has returned as External Affairs Minister in the new Modi 3.0 cabinet, marking his continuation as a central figure in India's diplomacy. Now, as you are well aware, over the past 5 years, Dr. Jaishankar has become a prominent diplomat, adeptly navigating a rapidly evolving global landscape. As the first Foreign Secretary assumed the role of Foreign Minister, he has played a crucial part in shaping India's foreign policy amidst numerous challenges that includes the COVID-19 pandemic, the rise of an assertive China, conflicts like the Russia-Ukraine war, as well as the Israel-Hamas war. Analysts say the appointment suggests that Mr. Modi's allies were unable to extract their pound of flesh that could have substantially impacted his economic agenda. Mohammad Ghazali has been tracking the latest developments for us along with the portfolio allocations. He joins us live at the moment. Ghazali, Dr. Jaishankar's returning as External Affairs Minister definitely means that he will be navigating a complex global landscape. But from the neighborhood first policy to regional integration, take us through what are likely to be the key priorities for Modi 3.0.
See, as you rightly pointed out, Parmeshwar, it has both the implications for the foreign implications as well as domestic implications. One, that certainly the allies could not exert their pressure on the government to give key portfolios to the alliance partners, and Mr. Modi retained Mr. Jaishankar as his next foreign minister in the government 3.0 or the NDA government 3.0. Now, what are the key priorities? He became, he was the first foreign secretary to be elevated as a foreign minister of India, and after that we have seen that how complex the changes have taken at the global level. Israel-Hamas war is on, Ukraine-Russia war is on, you also have US-China rivalry. And amid all this, the priority of this government will certainly to cement a regional cooperation or stability in the region by taking priority for the neighborhood. So that is why we saw the very first step in the swearing-in ceremony. The neighborhood countries or the head of the states are invited for the swearing-in ceremony. And now, in the next few days or months, we have got a lot of global summits, the G7 in Italy, then you have got the Peace Summit in Switzerland, you have got ASEAN and SCO and BRICS, G20, all those summits are lined up, and perhaps with the Prime Minister, Mr. Jaishankar is also scheduled to attend these summits. But beyond that, as far as the policy is concerned, the first thing is we know that how the Prime Minister has been talking about a 5 trillion economy in the coming days, and for that to have good relations with US, because with US we are investing in technology, and US also looks at India as a huge, we can say a huge market, which can also attract foreign direct investment and improve our economy. So one major key priority area for this government will be to have a good relations with the United States. Beyond that, the regional threat is always a top priority for the foreign ministry, be it Pakistan or be it China. And we have seen repeated utterances from China and Pakistan. Just recently, when Prime Minister Modi took the oath, he was congratulated by the head of the state from Taiwan, and reciprocating to that, even Mr. Modi thanked him for his comments, which was objected by China, saying that Taiwan is part of China. So these kind of regional issues will certainly be the top priority, but the global conflict will also something to watch out for. India has always talked about peace. It has also talked about the two-state solution when it comes to the Israel-Palestine conflict there. But since October 7, India has sort of condemned the terror attack by Hamas in Israel, but has also sort of asked for peace when it comes to the ongoing war in Gaza, and has also supported all the resolutions in the United States for two-state solution. So this will be a very complex situation for Mr. Jaishankar, but Mr. Modi has reposed faith in him, so we'll have to see that how he navigates through in this tough situation.
As always, Ghazali, thanks so much for breaking down the details for us. Well, the other big development we're tracking, a Maldivian parliamentary committee has decided to review 3 agreements that were signed by former President Ibrahim Soli's administration with India. This includes a pact to develop a naval base. The decision coincided with Mr. Muizu's visit to India to participate in the inauguration of Mr. Modi's 3rd term. Mr. Muizu met Mr. Modi as well as Dr. Jaishankar in New Delhi and discussed the strengthening of cooperation in areas of mutual interest. In fact, India was looking forward to working with Maldives, and this is the latest development that we can share with you, that a Maldivian parliamentary committee has now decided to review 3 agreements that were signed by former President Soli's administration with India. Ghazali is joining us with a quick recap of this update as well. Ghazali, the 2-for-1 committee of the Maldivian parliament has basically they oversee the operations of the security services, and their latest move, they have decided to review 3 agreements with India.
See, first of all, there has been no reaction from the Ministry of External Affairs because this report came in at a time with Mr. Muizu was attending the swearing-in ceremony of the Prime Minister. He even met the Foreign Minister, and his statement was also issued saying that the government of India as well as Maldives will look for more regional cooperation between the 2 countries. But why this has been a sort of a probe has been ordered there, or a parliamentary committee will be looking after all the past agreements, this may be the reason of the domestic politics there, because the predecessor of Mr. Muizu, Ibrahim Soli, was the president back then when these pacts were signed. So it may not have that kind of wider implication on India-Maldivian relations, but certainly it's a matter of concern for which the Ministry of External Affairs, maybe perhaps Mr. Jaishankar, will be assuming office today. So we will expect some response, and perhaps a statement will be issued on what is the government of India's reaction when it comes to these probes back in Maldives.
Thanks so much, Ghazali, for joining us with that latest update. We will, of course, wait for the Ministry of External Affairs to respond. But as Ghazali was mentioning, the visit of pro-China President of Maldives, Dr. Mohammad Muizu, for Prime Minister Modi's oath-taking, it was seen as an opportunity that New Delhi will avail to mend strained ties between the 2 nations, and now we have this latest development. But as you can see on your screens, External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar had called on Mr. Muizu and posted a picture of them with the words, "Look forward to India and Maldives working together closely." Well, switching tracks, this year's European Parliament elections saw a rightward turn, but the effect that will have on the bloc's policies might be less significant than its impact on the internal politics of the European Union's individual member states. Case in point, French President Emmanuel Macron called a snap parliamentary election in his country because his party did so poorly and the notorious far-right German party AfD won more seats than German Chancellor Olaf Scholz's Social Democrats did. The bloc's rightward shift isn't that surprising if you've been watching European politics closely, because if anything, this weekend's results highlight how the rightward shift has been going on longer and in more complex ways than can be exemplified by a few well-known extreme parties gaining seats in the parliament. Europeans did vote in more right-wing politicians in Germany, France, the Netherlands, Spain and Italy, among others. But part of the rightward push is also driven by centrist politicians, moving further to the right on migration in particular, operating under the premise that immigration is a major concern for voters and that promising harsher policies would help the centre retain power. In fact, other major issues included the economy, cost of living, defence and the environment. Besides immigration, the right wing was especially able to capitalise on environmental policies because of a large-scale protest by European farmers, especially in France and Germany.
As predicted by various polls, the political landscape in the European Union has transformed forever, with far-right parties across Europe making their biggest electoral gain so far. Anti-immigration and climate skepticism are likely to loom large. In a shocker, Germany and France, with the largest seat share in the European Union Parliament, with 96 and 81 seats respectively, saw their ruling parties performing worse than expected, as conservative right-leaning parties made big gains. The European Parliament's surge towards the right is clear as centre-right European People's Party, the largest parliamentary group, won big in this election. Similarly, far-right European conservatives and reformists and identity and democracy groups also gained seats, while the centre-left Progressive Alliance of Socialists and Democrats and the Greens lost seats. Yet cracks within Europe's right remain, with very little chance of far-right parties merging or working together.
It matters a lot in the European Parliament how united you are, and we do not see these two groups merging. Right now, to be honest, with the ID kicking out the AfD, I even see three groups emerging, a more likely scenario than them all merging into one. Why? There's multiple reasons, but I think the most important one is the Ukraine-Russia divide. We know that the the parties that are in the ECR are all very supportive of Ukraine, and the ones in the ID are very Russia-friendly, and that is a strong dividing line.
Ultimately, the Grand Coalition, as it called, between the centre-right European People's Party, the centre-left Socialists and Democrats, and the liberal Renew Europe group, which have been trying to prevent a far-right surge, secured 403 lawmakers, around 56% of all seats. In a surprising move, French President Emmanuel Macron's party faced a heavy defeat at the hands of Marine Le Pen's National Rally, part of the far-right Identity and Democracy group, prompting Macron to call snap legislative elections. Experts indicate that Macron's gamble by calling snap polls could backfire on him, leading to him losing control over domestic policy.
The French are not voting for their representative in the European Parliament or even for their representative in the National Assembly. They are voting to say no to Macron, and there might very well be a majority, relative majority, of hard right at the National Assembly and a strong extreme left constituency. The risk he's taking are huge.
Similarly, after German Chancellor Olaf Scholz, unpopular governing coalition, part of the Socialists and Democrats group, sank to feeble results, with far-right Alternative for Germany making significant gains. The party called for fresh polls in the country.
Dieses Wahlergebnis zeigt auch, dass die Ampelregierung keine Mehrheiten mehr hat. Eigentlich sollte Bundeskanzler Scholz dem sehr guten Beispiel von Emmanuel Macron folgen und den Weg freimachen für Neuwahlen. Und das ist auch unsere Forderung hier, die Vertrauensfrage zu stellen im Deutschen Bundestag und den Weg freizumachen für Neuwahlen im Deutschen Bundestag.
While most governing parties across Europe performed underwhelming, signaling public dissatisfaction, many Europeans also protested the bloc's clear shift towards the right. All eyes will now be on how the political changes sweeping Europe will impact key policies like immigration and climate. Bureau Report, NDTV.
Meanwhile, immigration is moving closer to the centre of the UK's general election campaign. It's an area of huge vulnerability for the Conservative Party. But what are political parties promising in the UK? Is it a target of zero net migration, an annual cap on the number of visas? Well, we did a deep dive.
The tourists, they were entitled.
A couple of hours ago, the ONS released immigration figures, and they are down by 10% because of the plan that we have put in place. And visa applications for this year are down by 25%, which will mean the figures will continue to fall. It's because we have a plan, and it's because the British people deserve an immigration system that works. And Labour would scrap all of that.
The topic of immigration fueled an often bad-tempered clash at the latest televised debate ahead of the UK general election. Immigration has long been a major political question in Britain, with voters expressing concern that large influxes put excess pressure on housing, education and the state-run National Health Service, as well as damaging social cohesion. Back in 2010, Conservative then Prime Minister David Cameron pledged to bring net migration back to tens of thousands a year, a target he never came close to reaching. As you know though, ending the free movement of people into Britain from other European countries was a major factor that led to the 2016 vote to leave the European Union, with those championing Brexit promising it would help bring control of Britain's borders. However, net migration, which reached 329,000 in 2015, has only continued to rise. Let's touch upon the numbers though. According to the most recent official figures in May, the provisional total for 2023 showed net migration of 6,85,000. I'm talking about the immigration figures there, down from a record high of 7,64,000 in 2022. That drop was largely due to a fall in the numbers moving to the UK from Hong Kong and Ukraine under humanitarian visa programs. Indian nationals, though, were by far the largest nationality coming to the UK last year, accounting for about a fifth of the overall immigration, followed by Nigerian and Chinese citizens. The government there says the migration rises were partly the result of the arrival of more students and people working in the care sector along with their dependents. But in January, Mr. Sunak introduced new rules to slash the numbers coming in by about 3 lakhs by stopping international students bringing in family members, increasing the salary threshold for skilled worker visas by about 48% to £38,700 and restricting care workers from bringing in dependents did help. The government there said last month this had led to 30,000 fewer student visa applications compared to the same period the year before, and a 58% fall in applications by dependents of people working in the health and care sector. But you know, many analysts and experts argue that it is difficult to assess the benefits and costs of immigration. While a rise in migration adds to the demand on public services, migrants will also pay taxes and provide other economic benefits. But critics of high immigration say it depresses wages, while rapid demographic change impacts society and makes integration almost impossible. This is what critics argue. They actually point to a 2018 report that suggested the net cost of immigration was more than £4 billion in the financial year 2016-2017. However, as we covered extensively, a 2022 report by the Migration Observatory at the University of Oxford said the fiscal impact of migration to the UK was small, but dependent on the migrants' circumstances. Some studies actually have shown foreign workers had little or no impact on overall wage or employment levels, and Britain's acute shortage of candidates to fill vacancies was a problem for many company bosses. Mr. Sunak says if he wins the election, he will cap work and family visas at a yearly level agreed by Parliament. This as leading Brexit campaigner Nigel Farage, who is now the leader of the right-wing Reform Party, which polls suggest is sucking votes away from Sunak's Conservatives. Well, Mr. Farage says net migration should fall to zero. The opposition Labour Party, meanwhile, says it would also lower net migration by reducing reliance on overseas workers, addressing the shortage of homegrown skills and tackling rogue employers. But you must note that the issue over legal migration is separate to the equally political contentious issue of stopping asylum seekers arriving in Britain without permission across the channel from Europe in small boats. As you know, Mr. Sunak's scheme to send those arriving this way to Rwanda has failed to get off the ground before the election, while Labour says it will indeed scrap the policy. But what do the numbers indicate? Well, more than 29,000 people arrived on small boats last year, after a record 45,775 back in 2022. And this year, more than 10,000 people have already made the Channel crossing, and it's not even the end of the year yet. Britain is actually spending more than £3 billion a year on processing asylum applications, with the cost of housing migrants that are awaiting a decision in hotels and other accommodation, that runs at about £8 million a day.
A new border security command. I will never accept that it is impossible to take down the vile gangs that bring people in small boats to cross the Channel, and we will smash it.
In other crucial news, US Secretary of State Antony Blinken has urged Arab leaders to pressure Hamas to accept a ceasefire proposal outlined 10 days ago by the US President Joe Biden to end the 8-month-long war in Gaza. Blinken is on his 8th visit to the region since Hamas terrorists attacked Israel on the 7th of October, triggering the bloodiest episode in the decades-long Israeli-Palestinian conflict. But this trip comes as Washington seeks to increase pressure on Hamas to agree to a ceasefire deal with Israel and ensure the war does not expand into Lebanon. Listen in to what Mr. Blinken had to say.
10 days ago, President Biden put forward a proposal in Gaza. Get all the hostages home and put us on a path to an enduring resolution to the conflict in Gaza. It's a proposal that is very close to what Hamas itself had agreed to sometime. Countries throughout the region and around the world, as well as international organizations, have all endorsed it. Israel has accepted it. And the only outlier in this moment, is Hamas.
But as always, news and updates continue on NDTV 24/7. We're taking a very quick break for now. Welcome back. Well, an aircraft transporting Malawi's Vice President Saulos Chilima and 9 others has disappeared. The plane carrying the 51-year-old Vice President left the South African national capital but failed to land as scheduled around 45 minutes later at Mzuzu International Airport. That's about 370 kilometers to the north. But a statement from the Malawian president's office indicated that aviation authorities lost contact with the plane when it disappeared from the radar. The other big headline, well, Apple went all in on during the Worldwide Developers Conference. During its annual keynote, the company showed off Apple Intelligence, its take on an AI system that spans the iPhone, the iPad and Mac. Some of the biggest AI-powered updates include the ability to manage notifications, automatically draft responses to emails and summarize text. Apple is also giving Siri a big AI upgrade that will give it more control over your apps and teased an upcoming ChatGPT integration as well. But the Worldwide Developers Conference was not all about AI. Apple also announced that it's rolling out a more customizable iPhone home screen in iOS 18, RCS support for messages, a calculator app for the iPad, updates to Vision OS, and a way to mirror your iPhone on your Mac in Mac OS 15. And turning our attention to an exclusive interview with NDTV, Bhutanese Prime Minister Dasho Tshering Tobgay speaks on the economy, the environment and strategic alignment. He also speaks of how Narendra Modi is his guru, his mentor and his big brother. Listen in.
How important is continuity in the relationship between Bhutan and India significant in carrying forward the momentum which presently exists?
Well, the relations are very strong. And so carrying forward the momentum is very important. But the relations have always been good. The relations between India and Bhutan have always been good. And as such, regardless of governments, there's always been continuity in terms of nurturing our good relations. And this is why I'm delighted to be here. Honored that Prime Minister Modi has invited me, and honored to be here representing my king, His Majesty the King, and the people of Bhutan at this momentous occasion, the swearing in of the third Modi government.
So since the last several decades, there's been a very close economic association between India and Bhutan. Bhutan's first 5-year plan was in 1971. India has been a partner at many levels over the decades. How is this significant in the relationship?
Well, India is our main development partner. And while we have made significant success since the start of our development journey in 1961, India has always been our main partner. And as a result, we've enjoyed tremendous success in terms of socio-economic growth and progress. You know that the first visit Prime Minister Modi took overseas after becoming Prime Minister in 2014 was to Bhutan.
Yes.
During his second tenure, at the end of his tenure, this is like 2.5 months ago, Prime Minister Modi visited Bhutan, and that was the last visit abroad in his second tenure. During that visit, he announced a range of partnerships, and one of which is the economic stimulus plan to the tune of 1,500 rupees. This is going to help us stimulate our economy that has not quite rebounded after the COVID pandemic. The second is, you mentioned the 13th five-year plan. The 13th five-year plan begins soon on 1st of July, and there Prime Minister Modi has announced an assistance package of 8,500 crores that's going to be used for a range of things.
You have a close personal equation with the Prime Minister. He was honored with your highest civilian award just a couple of months back. Could you tell us a little bit about your interactions with him? Because at one level, it's the personal chemistry between leaders which really provides the direction and the impetus in the relationship.
Well, Prime Minister Modi was honored not with my award, with His Majesty the King's award, and that's the highest civilian award. And we were honored in Bhutan that it was given to, awarded to Prime Minister Modi, and that he came all the way to Bhutan, in spite of his very busy schedule at the end of his second tenure as Prime Minister, to personally receive that award. We're very honored. I enjoy a very good relationship. I'm blessed. I enjoy a very close relationship with Prime Minister Modi.
Well, thank you for investing your time and watching this edition of The World 24/7. We'll keep tracking the latest developments for you. Do stay tuned.